My son lives with me to save money while he is just starting out after college. He has a full-time job which pays him rather well. He probably earns 1/3 of what I do, but I have been at my job a long time and I am not entry-level. He helps out around the house and he helps his mom with errands and such. One of the things he helps with is Costco runs. My wife likes to have him along because then he can do all the heavy lifting. I like when he goes because then I do not have to do the heavy lifting. I guess last time they went he saw some instant ramen and added it to the cart. Not really a big deal. Yesterday I was up late and I was peckish. I went into the pantry and saw the ramen. There were 6 bowls, so I took one and made some up with cold roast chicken, fresh green onions, and a couple of soft-boiled eggs. My son saw the bowl in the garbage and went off on me for eating his food. I thought he was joking, so I told him to piss off. But it turns out that he was serious. He was screaming at me over some $2 ramen. My wife heard our fight and came to see what was up. She tried to placate him by saying she would go to Costco and get some more. This is when I found out the price: $12 for 6 bowls. I took out my wallet and tried to give him $2 for his bowl of food that I stole. My wife said I was being ridiculous since she had paid for them. I must admit that this set me off. The little jackass was yelling at me for eating food that I paid for. My wife does not work. When the kids were little, we decided that she would be a stay-at-home mom and I would work my ass off to provide. She worked amazingly hard to keep us up and running when I was starting out in my career, and she deserves her time now. So when I say she does not work, I mean it. We have a lady who comes by and does the cleaning and laundry. My wife makes maybe 2 meals a week, by her own choice. I pay a meal prep company for most of our meals, and I like to cook fresh food for myself and the family as well on the weekends. And quite obviously we have easy cook meals from the store. I asked him if he was really so petty that he was upset with me for eating something I paid for. He said his mom had bought it for him. I said that she used our money, not his, to pay for it. He said that didn't matter and that I should have asked. I could not take it anymore and I said he needed to move out and pay for his own stuff if he was going to be such in a hole. At that point he shut up because I think he realized he ducked up. He said he was sorry and that he did not mean it. He went to his room and shut the door. My wife said I was in a hole to threaten him with kicking him out over some ramen. I said he was being a disrespectful prick and he was lucky I did not follow through. She is still mad at me, but my daughter, who is 6 years younger than my son, says that I am right and that she is always getting yelled at for touching his food. Which I pay for. Comment 1. NTA for how you've reacted and what you've told him. A bit at fault if he doesn't understand how you've supported him his life, at least financially. My boys are 16-14. They've both started working, understand the value of money. What they purchase with their own funds is absolutely respected as theirs, but those are typically objects in their rooms. They know that they've lived a very generous and supportive upbringing. Far from spoiled, as they do not get anything and everything they want, but are easily gifted valuable things like sports equipment, musical instruments, and travel independent of us, their parents. Comment 2. NTA. You ate food bought by you and your wife, that was in your pantry. Of course you thought it was food for the household to eat. Then instead of wanting a discussion about how people know food in the kitchen is his, he had a screaming fit and has done the same to his teen sister. He is disrespectful, bratty and mean over something that he should have sorted out sooner with a quick family discussion. Mom buys certain foods for people and they're off limits to others. If he can't do that, he should expect people in the household think they can eat food that's kept in the kitchen. If he's going to be an entitled brat who resorts to yelling, he should move out and see if it imparts some much-needed maturity. Your daughter shouldn't be living with being shouted at for eating food in your pantry. Comment 3. NTA. If he is old enough to be out of school and have a job, he is old enough to buy his own ramen. Yelling at everyone for eating food he did not pay for as an adult is childish. I 49F have a daughter 16F, let's call her Jane. Jane has always struggled with making friends due to her being incredibly shy and having social anxiety. Her father was also a mean drunk who would yell and throw things when he was drunk, which led to her being sensitive to loud noises and gave her a bit of separation anxiety. When she got to high school, she found a group of friends that she fell into. I wasn't particularly fond of this group, but Jane seemed happy, so I always encouraged her to go to hangouts and events with them. I even bought tickets for her and her best friend to see a band that they loved. I paid for them, and the friend's mother was going to pay me back closer to the concert. The problem started last year when this group started fighting with one another. They were all constantly talking behind each other's back, having arguments at school and excluding each other from activities. This caused my daughter a lot of anxiety and led to her having panic attacks in the morning before school because she was scared to go. Because of this, she started missing a lot of school and fell pretty far behind on her schoolwork, which gave her even more anxiety. After a long discussion with my daughter, we decided that the best option would be to move to another school and have a fresh start. When she told her friends she was moving school, they kicked her out of the group chat and stopped answering her messages. This was obviously devastating for her. This is where I might be. The concert is coming up and I still had the 2 tickets I bought. My daughter reached out to her ex-best friend and asked if she still wanted to go to the concert with her. The friend never responded, but I got a phone call from her mother saying that she wanted the ticket. I asked if they would still be going together. She said no, and that her daughter still wanted the ticket so she could go with some other friends who also had tickets. I told her in that case I would no longer be willing to give her the ticket because I didn't want my daughter to go by herself. The mother got really mad, saying that it was her daughter's ticket and it was not her fault that my daughter didn't have any friends. I made it very clear that since she hadn't paid for it yet, it was my ticket and I could give it to whoever I wanted. She called me and hung up. Now I have 2 tickets and my daughter still has no one to go with, so she still doesn't want to go. Should I have just given the other girl's mom the ticket instead of having 2 tickets that no one will use? Comment 1. If your daughter doesn't want to go to the concert with you, which I would totally understand if she doesn't want to be seen going with you by the mean girl crowd, then my suggestion is to reach out to the other girl's mom and offer to sell them the tickets, with a larger whole tax, of course, and use the proceeds to either get your daughter something she wants or do a different activity with her. Or just sell them to someone else, that's fine too. But I am definitely the kind of pettimfer who would charge extortionate prices to a mean girl and her entitled mother. Comment 2. If she doesn't want to go, I would rather go to the mom's house and rip the tickets to bits before selling it to them. Selling to someone else would be the better option. Comment 3. NTA, that's your ticket since you paid for it. Her former friend isn't entitled to it, especially after everything that happened. As for your daughter not having anyone to go with her, could you go with her since you have 2 tickets? If that won't work for both of you, perhaps sell both tickets and use the money to do something else with your daughter that she'd like to do? I'm totally ready to be made fun of for this, but I strongly believe in the paranormal. And one thing in particular that freaks me out to my core is mimicry. A spirit, or an entity, taking on human traits or the appearance of a loved one to mess with you or lure you in. That kind of shit gives me nightmares, and it's something my friends are very aware of given how much I yap about it. Last week, I was staying over at a friend's place, along with a few more people. We'd been hanging out together that evening and were too drunk to safely go home, so we slept there. In the middle of the night, something woke me up, and while I was still dazed and confused, I noticed one of my friends standing in the corner of the guest room. He was staring at me with a neutral demeanor, standing unnaturally still, and started whispering complete nonsense at me. Jumbled words forming meaningless sentences, genuinely very creepy, and every sheet. I could hardly breathe and was just frozen. I couldn't believe what was happening. I was still under the effects of alcohol and had literally just woken up, and this felt like a surreal nightmare. After a bit, he started walking in a very robotic way to the bedroom door, never taking his eyes off me, and left the room. That kinda made me snap out of my frozen state, and I started considering it was a prank. I got up and rushed out, only to see him sleeping on the couch. However, there were two girls awake in the kitchen, chatting quietly, that would have definitely seen him get up. But when I asked, they said they didn't. I started freaking out at that moment, just locked myself in the guest room and barely managed to sleep. I was terrified of that ducking thing coming back. In the morning, I was eager to tell everyone about what happened to me, which I did. They all listened attentively until the end, when they told me it was just a joke. He was acting, the girls had lied. They were just ducking with me. I just stood there without saying a word, then went to pick up my things and go. I was about to leave when one of the girls from the previous night blocked the door and told me to chill out, that I was overreacting. I mumbled something like "Get out of the way, you lying bitch," and she did. As I walked back home, I realized I was crying. When I got home and checked my phone, I had tons of messages about me overreacting, going too far with the witch line, making too big a deal out of a simple prank. Some time's passed and I feel a bit bad about my reaction, but part of me feels like it's justified. I think it wasn't that unfair of a reaction to learning my friends had used my beliefs against me while I was vulnerable just to get a good chuckle. Edit, I feel a need to explain my beliefs. While I don't consider myself Native American, I do have a lot of Native ancestry and family, and most of what my family has passed down from that culture are those legends and tales of creatures and spirits. Growing up, I was told those stories a lot and always had a fascination for them as well as respect and fear for the things they speak of. If you find it dumb, so be it, but it's how I was raised and part of my culture. Comment 1. Friends don't play tricks on other friends' fears when they're in a vulnerable state. It's never fun for the person they're playing it on, and it's dumb because it almost always happens in groups, where the person the idea comes from is usually, but not always, the person you confided in. So one of your friends made a suggestion and they all agreed. It's shitty to do that to anybody. This is literally one of many, many outcomes when someone's fears are treated as irrational or childish. NTA. Comment 2. It's up to you if you forgive them. That was a cruel prank from people you trusted. There's always a risk with pranks that the person you're pranking might genuinely be hurt. If you don't have an active agreement where you all enjoy being cruel to each other for fun, this was even more mean. It's not just a joke if you don't laugh. It is at best a joke at your expense. Haha, you really got me. NTA. I'm not sure where to start with this. But to clarify a few points. My parents divorced when I, 16F, was 3 and my older brother was 5. Our parents shared custody of us and it was just us in each household for 10 years, give or take. About 5 years ago, Dad started dating his wife Marge. We met Marge a few months into her and Dad's relationship, and then 4-ish years ago we met Marge's daughter, who is now 15. I'll call her Maddie. From the get-go, Maddie was super excited to have siblings, and she told us she was going to be our sister and we were going to be her brother and sister. She wanted to be included in anything she saw as sibling time. My brother and I never called it that, and we were both a little annoyed by her enthusiasm and insistence that she was just our sister. My dad and Marge weren't even engaged and she's not our biological sister. But we didn't say anything to her. We just disliked when she was so eager to cling onto us. I lost my brother just over a year ago. His death was really traumatic for me, my mom and my dad, and it led my mom into a mental health crisis that she has not recovered from. Because of this, I now live with my dad full-time and visit my mom at a facility she is staying in where they are doing their best to help her. She was released a couple of times but has been unable to cope without the extra supports this facility offers. Living with my dad has not been easy. Maddie was depressed when my brother died and wanted me to be her big sister when I couldn't give a crap about her honestly, and I did not want to be the one supporting her through my brother's death. I don't know why exactly, but Maddie decided she was going to learn more about my brother and reached out to a couple of my brother's friends in November. And at some point during this conversation, or whatever they had, they let slip that my brother couldn't stand Maddie and that he never said anything nice about her. This shocked and devastated Maddie. Maddie started therapy in January after she didn't bounce back from the comments. Before this, my dad and Marge tried cheering her up, but she was a mess and couldn't stop thinking about it. My dad mentioned after Maddie started therapy that she really wanted her big sister to reach out to her. She worried I felt the same way. I told my dad I wasn't worrying about Maddie. I was more worried about me. A couple of weeks ago, Maddie mentioned in a therapy session where Marge and my dad were present that she cried when she knew I was around, sometimes hoping I would comfort her, and I never did. She said it really hurt her that I didn't reach out. After that session, my dad confronted me and told me I should be doing better by my sister. I ignored him and did not comfort Maddie. She mentioned it again in her last session, and afterward my dad told me I might be missing my brother, but I have Maddie and should cherish her the way I did my brother, and that one day I will regret not being there for her. Comment 1. NTA. You're grieving. I'm so very sorry. Only you can say whether you can handle having Maddie around. Maybe get together and talk, let her know you're not strong enough to support another person right now, but you don't dislike her, you're just trying to deal. You might want to ask your dad why you're not getting any support, yet he expects you to help hold up Maddie. You have lost your mom and your brother. You're still his child. Tell him to ask like a parent and step up. You need help too. Comment 2. NTA. Definitely your dad as the lead R, followed by your stepmom. Maddie definitely needs therapy for a multitude of reasons, but why in the world are you not? You've basically lost everyone that holds you close and dear, while your dad just expects you to pick up the pieces for everyone, with no way to cope or deal. That's seriously messed up. I hope you can get away from there soon and find the help and chosen family you need. I'm sorry for your losses.